All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for this webinar. We're going to go ahead and get started. Just quick housekeeping before we get into our material. This webinar is going to be shared with everyone via email, and we'll send the slides as well. So don't worry about taking too many notes. We'll be sending this your way as soon as it's over. If you have a question, we'd love to hear from you during the webinar, and we'll be answering questions at the end. You can tweet us, either myself, Jilly Bedanes, or Sujin, or at ViralTag, and use the hashtag ViralTagWebinar with your question, and we'll get to that right away. You can also just put it in that question box, send us a message, and again, feel free to add those at any time during the webinar, and we'll get to them at the end. Like I said, my name is Jilly Bedanes. I'm the head of marketing here at ViralTag. That's my email address as well. Feel free to email me if you have any questions about ViralTag or this webinar after it's over. I can also talk about ViralTag a little bit at the end. Just a quick overview, ViralTag is a visual marketing suite. Businesses use our software to find and optimize visual content and schedule it to all their social media channels at the same time. A really easy, friendly to use dashboard for marketers and entrepreneurs. But we're not going to spend too much time on ViralTag. We're here for some great material that Sujin Patel is going to be sharing with us. He is the founder of Narrow.io and ContentMarketer.io, and he is an expert in SEO and content marketing, and is going to be sharing a lot of his expertise with us today. And I'm really excited to learn from him, and really glad to have him here with us today. So with that, I am going to turn the presentation over to him. Let me just switch the presenter status to him.
Hey everyone, what's going on?
Great.
Can you see my screen properly? Gonna open this full screen.
Yeah, we can see
it. Okay, perfect. Awesome. All right, so I'm gonna talk today about how businesses should be using social media, and my topic is really on the right ways to use it, how to engage with your followers, with your audience, and these kind of principles can be applied to any real social network: Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Google+, Instagram, Pinterest, Snapchat, what have you. The principles really transfer over. I will get into, in certain points, some of the different applications. But first, a little about me. As you've probably already heard, I am Sujin Patel. I am the co-founder of ContentMarketer.io and Narrow.io. Both are tools for marketers to, first one is to leverage content marketing, hence the name. And the second one is to help you build your Twitter following. So both of those companies have been around for a little over a year. I'm also, prior to that, I founded a digital marketing agency called Single Grain, and I've actually been able to help 137 companies increase their traffic through SEO and content marketing. I actually counted one day, I got bored, and I just literally took out my spreadsheet and kind of put everything together. That's 137 companies successfully. Anyways, I blog a lot. I write about everything I learn. I write about everything I test. At my personal site, you'll see some really good kind of insight on content, social, kind of all things digital. On Inc., Forbes, Wall Street Journal, and Entrepreneur, it might be a mix between marketing, social media, and business content. But without further ado, let's jump into the topic. So social media, as of 2015, has gotten to 73% of Americans, and that's huge. And in this number, I don't have the stat in front of me, but the global penetration, but it is huge. It is something, if your company, your brand isn't on social, isn't active on like Twitter or Facebook, you're missing out. It's the bar that you have to do to play into the digital marketing space today. But you know what I find is a lot of businesses still struggle to understand how to use social media. So they might be doing the tweets, they might be sharing content, they might be posting, behind the scenes, but I feel like a lot of companies really don't have a strategy in place to best leverage social media. So, as I mentioned, it's easy to just jump in, create all these social presence, but it's the bar just to have a social presence. You have to do more than just be there and participate. You have to really engage. You have to show thought leadership through content. You have to really care about your customers. You have to deal with so many different things. So there's a few things to me that are rules kind of I follow. So first and foremost, treat your followers like actual people. Followers, that may be a term for Twitter, but that is the same thing for Facebook and any other social network. It's treat your audience like actual people, because guess what? They're actually people. I know it's a little easy to kind of get caught lost in the numbers, because you probably, as brands grow, they get larger and larger followings, but every person really matters. Focus on who they are, not what they're going to give you. Don't ever think about what you can get. Give first. I believe that principle gets you a lot more stuff. So the net results just means you get a lot more at the end of the day by just not focusing on it, which is kind of ironic. Listen to engagement metrics, and I'll get into a lot more of this stuff later in the next coming slides. But don't be too quick to sell something or to promote something. Really take some time to build a relationship. And lastly, help them decide to buy. Don't ask for the sale. Social is really now a trust mechanism. People are looking at it to see if your brand, if they can get behind your brand. Is that something you believe in? Do they share your beliefs? So 10 years ago, you would never ask a brand, do you share my beliefs? It's not something that was a question asked, because it wasn't something you could actually demonstrate. But now it's social, you can. So as I mentioned, show your followers you're a human, and the human side of business. Show that you care about them. And a company that does a really, really good job about this is Buffer. Think about if somebody is tweeting or sharing your stuff, or somebody comments on Facebook, you should be really commenting back, and it should be your brand. But if you have a big enough following, you can add your name to the end of it, and this just shows that there's humans behind this business, because it's so easy to get caught in the fact that you may have 5 people on your social team, you may have 2. They may be responding, but that doesn't really engage with that person. The other way to show your human side is if you make it, like, use softer words or real life words. And if you make a mistake, correct it. Say oops, and actually share that as a language. You don't have to use very professional copy in the engaging copy you write, or in the engaging kind of tweets or shares you write. It could be, more conversational and more emotional. That just shows that there's actually someone behind there. And if a brand makes a mistake, guess what? It's human, and it actually kind of humanizes you a little bit better. And like I mentioned earlier, treat your followers like actual people. Believe it or not, people don't do this. Every one person that's following you or is in your audience is actually a real person. Yeah, there's probably a few automated accounts and whatnot, but that's a rounding error. That's maybe a few percent at most if you built your audience the right way. But really trust those. Get people to trust you. Build genuine relationships, and that happens. Sales happen, and you can retain customers in a very. You can retain a lot more of them, and you can increase sales by just building those relationships. So don't always be quick to like, hey, purchase here, or hey, you can see this. A company that does a really good job of this is by the name of When I Work. So check out wheniwork.com, Facebook/wheniwork, or Twitter/wheniwork. Both, they do such a great job at humanizing this. A lot of people share their Facebook ads, so they're doing a lot of acquisition, and they share their ads as updates because they're just that like engaging in terms of how personal the copy is written, as well as how like it really looks like a human saying this, but the brand is just the face. So when you do that, it helps a lot. So there's another tool that can, or not another tool, but like curating really good content can help you really build trust. So I've got people coming up to me all the time on social, like, how do you read all this stuff? Like, how do you find time to share all this stuff on Twitter and Facebook? You know, my response is I share everything I read or every good article I come through or come across, and people generally trust me more because I've just shared good stuff that they found useful. So it's a huge, and they're more likely to buy from me, and customers are, if you look at, you know, a way to kind of think about this is if you write good content on your blog and you send all your customers or everyone on your list, you know, a regular email with your latest blog post, it shows trust because you're building really good content. You could do the same thing on social media, but just by sharing really informative content, not sales content. And I'll send you I'll talk about some rules and principles and kind of numbers to go by in a few minutes. And then create the same experience online. So think about, you know, where, if you have a brick and mortar store, if you are a brick and mortar store, or if you have you know, you have a certain experience on your website or with, let's say, customer support, keep that same tone on social or close to that tone. As a whole, people want to interact with you. They are going to interact with you on multiple channels. For example, we just launched at contentmarketer.io, we just launched a new product called Connector, and it's an email outreach tool. And we got a lot of buzz these last few weeks, and we're getting people asking questions on via email, via Twitter, via Facebook. I got a few text messages, I guess, from people that I know have kind of checked it out, and through live chat, but there's going to be like 100 different ways people can contact you. It's 2016. There's too many tools out there, but have that same voice. If you're going to choose to be kind of friendly and goofy with the personality, do it. You know, I always go with the friendly and overly kind of helpful. Think about live chat. If it was public, that would essentially be your social media account. So have these conversations and really interact with them and try to match the voice of your website. And pay attention to engagement. So what does engagement mean? It really means the number of real comments you receive, the number of shares. When I say real comments, I kind of discount when someone says awesome or like a 1 or 2 word response. Woohoo, like, you know, just like kind of noises. Those are great, but and it's awesome that people do that, but that's not, to me, a true engagement. A like either on Twitter, I think it's like now it's a heart, not a favorite, and then a like on Facebook, or, you know, like on, or a heart on Instagram. That's not really true engagement. True engagement is the number of people you can get to react to something. So if you say something, how many reactions are you getting? And there's a number of tools you can use to do this. I'll actually get into a couple tools later, but at the end of the day, if you have to manually count, like, hey, I actually had my previous team at my agency just have a spreadsheet. Okay, we shared 50 updates on Facebook this month, and we got X amount of real comments, and they just tallied up the comments, X amount of shares, and what we wanted. There's not like a great number. What it is there's an improvement, and all you really should care about is, even if you're at 1% right now, focus on getting to 2 to 5 to 10%. Forget where you are. Always focus on kind of that next that goal. And I also count shares, and then responses on Snapchat or things like that. So, you know, who they are, not what they're going to give you. I mentioned this a little earlier. If businesses in 2016 are not going to be leveraging social media, or they should not be leveraging social media to get the quick sale, to be the quick transaction. This is your storefront. Like social is the first transaction or interaction a lot of companies have, or a lot of people have with you after they visit your website. So as soon as they visit your website, if they go to social, that's the first place they're going to see. You probably don't want to just be continuing to sell new customers or be too pushy. So concentrate on really providing value. And the way I say value, it could be education. It's the quickest way to provide value, is provide and share helpful content that can help educate your potential customers, your customers, and your audience. And what does that mean? Whatever is interesting to them, whatever is helpful to them. That might not be the same stuff you read, but it will be the same. It will be very helpful to them, and there's a lot of examples about that. And keep your promotional messages in check. So I mentioned earlier I was going to do this ratio and these metrics around how many you should share. The number one problem people have with social media is that there's too much promotional messaging. There's too much selling and promotion happening and not enough interaction. The second problem is it's just not personalized. It feels kind of canned. So T.A. McCann of Gist, previously of Gist, I think he's doing something new now, created this simple ratio. It's 5, 3, 2, and it's 5 social media posts, 3 non-sales related posts, and 2 personal posts, right? So these personal posts are going to be things to help humanize you as a person. Think about this as behind the scenes, or if you're, let's say, a startup, or you're in, let's say you have a fashion boutique, go take a picture of like the storage unit, right? Or go take a picture of like unboxing some things. A startup, go talk, share what you're doing for lunch. Like share your team going out to lunch, eating outside on a warm, sunny day, right? Like, even though that's not completely relevant to your audience, it shows that you guys are people. I feel like in a lot of companies, like is there a person behind this website? I don't know, and that's what social helps you do. It helps people resonate with you personally, or your team, or your company personally. 5 social media posts. This would be really good content, retweeting other things. I use a number of tools. Like I said, I use QUU.co and Buffer to schedule everything. Q is great because all these curators you can subscribe to categories, and all these curators just submit content to these categories. It gets some sort of review process, but at the end of the day, it automatically be sharing really good content in a specific category. Some of the best content on the web in your category. And then going to the non-sales related stuff, information that's relevant to your, like this, when I say non-sales, it could be a discount. It could be that you launch something. It could be that you hit a number, a milestone. This would be about your company. It would be about your products. It could be about what you guys do as a business. Just don't be super salesy. Now, here's the trick. If you're on Twitter or you're on Facebook, pin your salesy post. So if you have a discount or a sale going on, or if you're an e-commerce store, if you just launched something, or you have some sort of promotion, well, cool. Pin it to the top of your board, your Twitter profile, or pin it to your Facebook profile or fan page. It's okay to have that, but just make your ongoing transactions or make ongoing social media updates very just non-salesy. That way you kind of get the best of both worlds. And think about it this way: you engage somebody as a user from some other social media channel, or they come to your website, and somehow they end up on your feed or on your Facebook page. Well, they've probably interacted with one single post, and if they like it, they're going to go to your page, maybe, perhaps, right? But those who make it there are very susceptible to transactions because they've already kind of worked a few steps in. So it's pretty powerful when you get to how you can use social to really build that trust. And just as I said, don't be promotional. Build the relationships. Like take the time and build relationships. Especially if you're on emerging channels or social networks that are being used for business now, Snapchat and Instagram particularly, it's all about trust. It's all about trust, because how many people do you guys know out there that have an Instagram, like an Instagram celebrity that has a lot of followings, that just every once in a while gets paid and they sell something online, some sort of promotion. There's a lot of transaction happening. What I recommend is you use those channels to get them onto your other channels. So, for example, one easy example is on Snapchat or on Instagram. On Instagram, you can share an update or a photo that says, "Hey, we're doing this contest on, send us this one picture, send us a picture or a snap of you doing this, and be entered to win an iPad or be entered to win something or get this for free." Then what you do on Snap, and you say the way to enter is actually Snapchat us, enter your username or how they can get to you. You might even want to use an image that has that, and then as your snap code, and then have them send it to you. This way you're now engaging into a relationship on even though it's on Snapchat. I guarantee you, even if 50 people or 10 people join that Snapchat and send that to you, that friction point is so high. Although you incentivize it with the, whatever you're going to give away for free, but you have those people's trust as long as you keep it, as long as you keep that relationship going. You could do the same thing, like, hey, follow me on Twitter for this and that on Snapchat. So you can use these channels in a cross-functionally or to cross-promote your other channels. And I always use like the larger channels to get the emerging channels to really get deeper relationships, because right now it's really, really hard to get a transaction on Snapchat. However, it's very easy to get more likes and fans on Facebook, and then on your Facebook page say, hey, get with us on, follow us or add us on Snapchat, or follow us on Instagram, and we're talking about this thing. There's also companies that do a slightly different thing. So the Snapchat channel might be completely behind the scenes stuff, or the CEO speaking, or really completely like behind, like it's just really personal, and that would be the relationship. The Instagram may be one subsection. So I've seen like companies do, hey, we're gonna only talk about this stuff, this section of our business on Instagram, and then the Facebook and Twitter may be the catch-all, or LinkedIn may be the catch-all. And so then you can use Facebook to drive people to Instagram and or Snapchat or whatever these new channels are for more high-in-touch relationships. And although you can use tools like Cicito, and they're awesome tools. Cicito is like this Twitter automation tool. You can Twitter and social automation, so you can do like LinkedIn and Twitter and get more followers, and then DM something or tweet at them to take to either click on a link or do something. I've used it. I'm probably butchering how I've used it, but what I'm getting at is that you could do that, sure, and get some quick wins, or you could really focus on interaction, looking at every interaction as an opportunity to really build that engagement. For example, I have 26,000 followers, and that may seem like a lot to some of you guys, but it's not compared to 100,000, 200,000. But I am very active on Twitter, and I respond to people, whatever kind of, if there's a question thrown my way, if I see it on my feed, I'll try to respond to it. I'll respond to it if I actually catch it on my feed, because there's a lot of noise there. But I get the engagement because my engagement is very, very high with my 26,000 followers. The number of clicks I get to my website when I promote it or when I share it is that of 150,000 follower account. So I'm just telling you that you could literally get 5x I am getting 5x the return for my 26,000 followers because I have high engagement. And that might not port 100% to you today. It takes time, you have to build trust. I always post some random goofy stuff as well. Again, I'm a person. I'm building a personal brand. It's a little different. On my company brands, I don't do that as much, but there is some humanizing element to it. Like for example, Narrow yesterday. I'm a marketer by trade. I tweeted that we wrote this new onboarding email drip campaigns, and the subject lines were that of Justin Bieber's song. So, and I put like hashtag sorry, hashtag where have you been, and love yourself, all these songs. Funny enough, like literally some of the subject lines of our emails were that, and so I got, I think 15 or 16 people just shared that update, and it was just really funny, right? It was very different, and obviously not all of our emo drips are Justin Bieber songs, but it got people's attention. It threw them off from what they normally think about or hear about. And I'm going to little plug here for Narrow, but what our tool does is it follows and likes people based off keywords. You can also add like conference hashtags or websites, and it engages with those people, and it helps you really build a real following, specifically for Twitter. And we do all the legwork. All you gotta do is add keywords. So I actually use this on myself. I test it out. We've used it for all our companies. It helps us build that real following, and it can be done really, really quickly. You just keep adding keywords every once in a while as you find new keywords or hashtags. So I'll end my shameless plug there, and then really think about yourself as a new visitor. What are you going to find interesting? Like what information is really interesting to you, and kind of just put yourself in that shoes. I mentioned this already. I don't want to delve too much, but bottom line, don't ask for a sale. If you have to ask for a sale, you have not earned anyone's trust yet. What you've done is you've asked for a sale. You've begged for a sale. It's almost considered that bad. And if you have, let's say you're a daily deal site, or you're a coupon site. I mean, I've worked with a customer, coupons.com, a few years ago, and they're like, how do we separate these? How do we not post deals? We're a deals site. Well, what we did was we created a specific deals Twitter handle. We had a company and like a branded Twitter feed. We had a branded Facebook feed, but then we had these deals feeds too, or deals accounts too, and we would say, hey, once a day, because these guys posted a lot of social media updates. Once a day, we would share the best deal, or our favorite deal of the day. But then it would say follow this handle to get the rest of them. So there are ways to do this, and you can get creative. And I mentioned this earlier. Help people decide to buy. So create excellent content, right? Share excellent content. Make your website super easy to create, and allow people to window shop, meaning display your products, services, what have you, very, very openly. And this is more your website than your social media. And then get feedback. I always ask, like, probably once a month, if not twice a month, I ask my followers, like, hey, what do you want me to write about? Or, hey, what kind of content have you found the most helpful? Or, like, hey, what are you in the mood for today? And I feel like a lot of this, even this, what are you in the mood for today? Like, what do you feel like eating for lunch? It's a weird question. You don't see brands really asking that question, but that's why it could do well. It's because you don't see brands trying to leverage it already. So you can stand out by simply asking a question. Then you can go into more questions, or goofier, or more serious, whatever you really feel like. But eventually you can get to, actually asking feedback. First, you got to start asking questions to really get like some sort of engagement. You start asking, hey, give me feedback on my company. Again, you've made it about you and what you can get from this. Start to really ask questions and say, oh, what do you want to see more of? What kind of content you want to see more of? Or what kind of products, if you're selling products, whatever kind of whatever fits you. But you can easily do that as long as on these social media channels, as long as you don't, you've already done the last couple steps. I've gone over this a bit. There's a lot of different metrics you can look at. I'm looking at on Twitter, retweets. I use Buffer for all of my social sharing. So I look at what content actually gets the clicks and then what gets the retweets and shares. So I just adjust my approach to go after or focus on sharing more content like that. You can do similar things on Facebook, although the Facebook dashboard is pretty good. I've always found it just to kind of like tally it up off of the dashboard and then kind of pull it out. Instagram, again, a little bit more manual. Snapchat, definitely more manual. You're not gonna get too many metrics besides views, and that can help you. You probably want to look at the views daily off your storyboard, and just see, oh, is my views going down? Even if I have 30 views yesterday or 100 views, if I have 20, maybe your content at that share isn't resonating with people. Maybe it's a bad time, but you can, once you know, you can start to test or adjust just a few things. And again, learn about your followers, right? Like what time of the day is best for them. You'll find some pretty interesting information, and a lot of like the time of the day question, it's not always what you think, to be honest. The other thing is where. There's some companies that it's all about Facebook. If you're more consumer, it's more about Facebook. If you're more like, if you're completely on the other side, you're enterprise completely, it's probably a little bit more LinkedIn or email, to be honest. That's okay, but really figure out that type of information. And then what type of content, once you kind of find that out, think about what they're sharing. Because I guarantee you, if you can get what they're sharing and what you're sharing very closely aligned, you're gonna get a lot more shares. Cool, and like I said, adjust your strategy. Now that you've figured a lot, like I've told you about these various things, you can ultimately make changes to straighten relationships and seeing if they can try to convert them. And that's my presentation. Thank you for listening, and I'll take some questions on.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That was really a really great, informative presentation. Let's see. If you have questions, pop them in that question box, or tweet them if you would like to do that way as well. We have a couple here to get started with, Susan. The first one. So you talked a lot about being human in social media. Be human. Remember, you're talking to humans. Do you have any examples of businesses that are doing a really good job of that?
Yeah, I think I mentioned this a bit on the presentation. Buffer, and they have to do a good job because they're a social media company. They're doing an amazing job at this. They're like, they have a bunch of people managing their accounts, and the people actually are saying their names at the end of the tweet. And I tested them out. I always, if you guys know one thing about me, or leave with one thing about me, it's that I like to do some weird tests to people just to really test their limits. And Buffer was one company that actually responded well. I think what's another one? Grubhub is a great example. Although, imagine Grubhub, you're ordering food and it's delayed, and that's when you tweet at them or go on Facebook and find them. You're pretty annoyed, or like you start with a bad taste in your mouth because you're hungry or whatever, right? Most of the time it's that way. Sometimes it's, oh, I love you guys, whatever, right? But they have a lot of customer support stuff to deal with, and they are amazing at it. If you check out their feed, the Twitter feed specifically, it's really great. I think company like Nike, if you look at their feeds, they're very good at pretty much everything I mentioned, and not just the main Nike brand. I'm talking about all their brands, and also on Instagram too. That's, I would say, their leading channel.
Cool. We have another question kind of on that topic. Someone's wondering if you can really, if that sort of strategy can work well for every sort of industry, or is it certain sort of industries? This person is wondering specifically about a crowdsourcing for a small startup in biotech, so kind of a different industry. Do you think that sort of approach would work well in that industry as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it generally, the premise of my presentation will work in any industry. What changes is where, right? And so in biotech, my wife actually is in that space, so I know a lot about it and the kind of people and where they hang out. And they're on Facebook a bit more. If you can target them, and you might have to target them through Facebook ads. They're not on LinkedIn. They are on LinkedIn, but they're not really active on there. The best channel to engage them, believe it or not, is email. And that's not social, but you can apply everything in this presentation and do it through email. You could do a curated like email newsletter using like curated.com or .co, or any type of like simple newsletter, and get people, hey, sign up for information. You still lead with education and you still lead with value, but your medium or your channel has changed. And unfortunately, in some industries, it will have to be offline, because that's just where those people operate, because they're just not as social. They're not as active on social media. They may still be very social.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's such a good point. Thinking about email as like another social channel. Totally. I guess speaking of other channels, we have another question here about you talked a lot about Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter in this presentation. Do you have any other specific advice that people could apply? I'm wondering specifically about like Instagram and Snapchat.
Yeah, so those are both emerging channels. They've been around. Both of Instagram has probably been around for a bit longer and has been used for marketing. Now that it's more integrated with Facebook, you can do some cross-platform ads. It works really well. But what I think with both of these is if you're a big brand, you can use it, or just a moderate-sized brand, you can use it to show the behind the scenes. You can use it to tell your story. I think brands and companies can leverage Instagram specifically for showing kind of their human side of things. You can use Instagram to show behind the scenes. You can even use, not Instagram. You can use Snapchat to show behind the scenes. Or if you want to get really simple, you could take a snap, a little video with a quick like 3-second blurb on, and take the blurb of your website or of what you're doing on whatever you're doing at the moment, or of yourself. And so it doesn't have to be really fancy, and the fact that because it's Snapchat, because it's a very informal channel as a whole, people are used to it being not professionally edited. So think about it this way: Snapchat has leveled the quality playing field for Nike and for a mom and pop shop, right? So because regardless, like you just don't have that much time or functionality, so you don't have editability. And I forgot to mention another company that does a great job of this on social media, specifically Instagram, is BMW.
Along those lines, we have a couple questions coming in about how to decide which channels to focus on. So you talked a little bit about like biotech, thinking about emails, but with all these channels out there, how does a business decide which one to go for?
Yeah, that's a great question. So generally speaking, if you're B2B enterprise, focus on, I'm just kind of go from B2B enterprise all the way down to kind of B2C. Your channel is going to be more LinkedIn. It's going to be a little more, it potentially could be Twitter. Facebook is probably just not going to work for you. And if you don't find it working, fine. Just take it off. Like, don't be there. Don't have this like hollow presence. Just don't promote that like area. Just take it off. Take those links off your website. And you know, maybe Instagram and Snapchat is not right either. If you're more in the B2C space, the exact other spectrum, the LinkedIn is just not going to work for you. Twitter barely will work. It may not work. And at the end of the day, how you can find out is really just testing or looking to see what the leaders in the space have done. So I don't necessarily mean your competitors. I mean, if you're a B2C, if, like for example, if you're a crowdfunding company, look at what the guys in the, you know, what the best B2B example of crowdfunding or like that the closest space to that would be, and go after those guys. I mean, sorry, look at what they've done. They've likely figured some stuff out. At the end of the day, I end up finding out the hard way. I call that the fun way. Try all channels. Keep doing what works. Double down on what's working best. Likely, you're gonna find 3 channels, the 3 that always work. I mean, not always work, but that like are the top 3 are Facebook. It works for most businesses. LinkedIn and Twitter. That's just because they just are a lot more mature. Google Plus, I don't know that it works for many people these days. Pinterest works well, again, depending on your industry, and that's kind of a little bit of a hybrid too. And then Snapchat and Instagram are very intermittently. And for example, Snapchat and Instagram are very hard for penetration, meaning it's hard to break through right now. It's hard to like stand out, but they take a long time. So even if you're unsure about those channels, no one really knows. In my opinion, no one really knows what the outcome of those channels are going to be. Are they going to be really awesome channels, or is it just because there's a lot of buzz that companies are leveraging them and they're leveraging that, the kind of tail of that buzz? But I would suggest investing a little bit into those channels so that if they do come out on the right side, that you already have a little bit of a following, because it takes a long time.
Mm-hmm. And someone was asking specifically, they said they work in the government. Do you have any suggestions for how a government organization should be thinking about using social media? Yeah,
so look at so the perfect example is look at the TSA Instagram account. It's hilarious, right? Now, okay, you probably can't do that everywhere all the time, but you can. It's a good example of taking yourself, like adding humor to a corporate, very kind of dry topic or not so appealing topic. I think the USPS, DHL both do good jobs on social media. I would focus on Facebook, to be honest, and target, because you can target so many different types of people there. I would go that route and focus on being educational, resourceful. So don't think about, okay, I'm a government organization, that's hard. Well, think about your customers or your users or what your audience needs, and really be focused on either helping them inspire or motivate them, or give them resources to educate them. Usually those are the best hooks, or entertain them. That last one's gonna be really hard in that industry, but the formers would be pretty doable.
Cool. Yeah, great advice. Another question about timing. If you have any suggestions about specifically like the frequency, how much you should be posting each day or week. This person is wondering specifically about Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram.
Yeah. So Instagram, I think once a day is fine. Once a week it's okay. Like there's not much rules. I wouldn't go more than once a day. Facebook, I really would say once a day max. If you're a big organization, let's just quantify that. If you have 100,000 fans or more, post more. That's okay. If you have less than that, once a day max. In fact, I would even say 2 a week is much better. And then on Twitter, 5-7 times a day is completely fine. You could do a little more if you want. And sorry, did I miss one? LinkedIn, right? Or
they didn't ask about that, but yeah, what would you say about LinkedIn?
with LinkedIn, I would probably go with once a day as well. LinkedIn is making a very big play right now with content, with their unique content, with their feed, and they've been a job board, job site, a resume site for a long time. So they're trying to really get those people engaging in their platform with all their LinkedIn Pulse content. So since they're promoting so much of their own content, I think you can, because you're pushing a lot of stuff, you could share you could just pretty much share the same stuff you do on Twitter, on LinkedIn, but just use some sort of scheduling tool to make sure it's sent out, once a day.
And I will take that opportunity to plug Viral Tag, which is a great scheduling tool and works for all of those social channels that you've been talking about. So you can schedule content at the same time to Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, also to Instagram and Pinterest and Tumblr. So especially great if you're focusing on visuals. Our platform helps you a lot with that. Let's see, we have time for a few more questions if anyone wants to add theirs in. We have one more question here about Facebook specifically. Someone's asking a question I know a lot of people are thinking about when you have a Facebook page. I'm wondering if you have any insight on how to get more people on your Facebook page to see your post, other than that, than paying for promotion.
Yeah, so unfortunately, Facebook is pretty, pretty hard to kind of crack. But the way I would do this is really mixing up the different angles, the emotional kind of, or the triggers you hit. So, and they really care about it's really about how much activity and engagement your shares get. So if you're just starting out, if you're not getting the engagement you want, your posts aren't getting the reach, essentially, you should back off the number of posts and really do a little bit more on the what is it called? Just getting more engagement. So I would actually cross promote Facebook on your email list or your website. That way people could see they're referencing going to the Facebook page to like something. And I'm not saying do this forever because that probably not the best idea, but just for a bit, just to show some traction. I just, for example, just did this for my personal account. I have 1,000 likes, maybe less. And I never got anywhere because I never really focused on it. I just always shared stuff. But I started sharing my Facebook profile link on my email signature in my email link, and it just says, hey, check out, I share content, I share content on Facebook about blah 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 blah, check it out. And I literally, people are starting to like things, and all it took was like 5 or 6 posts where I got 3-4 likes, 5 likes, and now everything I do has a couple likes. Now I'm telling you this at a very, very small scale because I had nothing, no engagement, like practically zero reach, with 500, I think like 600 fans. And now I'm getting reach into about 400 people. So that's 90% of my own audience with just like 3 things I did, with just like 3 or 4 status updates that had reach, or that did get some engagement, likes particularly.
Cool. And see, another question here about Instagram. Some kind of recent news. Instagram has recently announced that they might be rolling out more non-chronological pictures, right, in your feed. I think that's just come out in the last week or so. This person's wondering if you have any thoughts on that, and kind of how businesses can prepare their strategies with that in mind, thinking about that potential change.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one because there's a lot of people that are pretty upset about that. I think they're pretty much going to follow what like Facebook has done in taking their audience away from them. It's what it does is it's just removing a lot of noise. So there's a lot of noise in terms of these like clickbaity, these like really like motivational quotes, which again still work, but like not if everyone's just posting motivational quotes, not if every business out there is posting motivational quotes. So I think partly I'm happy about that because, and it's going to help people start to get some penetration because it removes a lot of the noise. The downside is you kind of lose a little bit more of your audience, and you kind of barely had them on Instagram anyways. So it is unfortunate on that front, but I think they're just trying to clean up the network.
Cool. Well, I think those are all of our questions, unless anyone wants to throw in last minute, but we're going to have to wrap up anyway. But thank you. Sujin, do you have anything you want to add before we wrap up?
Yeah, so one more quick plug. I'll send over a email with this discount, but for those of you who are interested in signing up for Narrow, I'll send over a link to get a 50% discount for the first 3 months. So hopefully that helps you kind of kickstart your social media, growth, and if not, further accelerates it if you're already doing a lot of it. And thanks for having me. If you have any questions, my email is listed here, and tweet at me or chat with me on Facebook. I'm actually on Messenger a lot more, so you can reach me there pretty instantaneously.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. This was really awesome to hear from you, Sujin, and hear all your advice. Lots of great material. Like you said, we're going to be sending you guys an email with the recording, with the slides, and with that discount code. We'll also be sending along a discount code for Viral Tag. If you haven't tried us out before, we offer a free 14-day trial, and we're going to give you 50% off your first 2 months of Viral Tag as well. And we'll send a code for that in our email following up with you. But thank you again for joining us today. It was really wonderful to get so much engagement as well. Thank you for all these great questions. And definitely feel free to reach out to either of us if you have questions or thoughts after this webinar. Thank you and have a great day.
My pleasure. Bye.